Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be how the universe and women tests your character. Well, this particular email is from a viewer, and he was out with his buddies and met these girls who were obviously drinking and having a good time. And one in particular that he was talking to was basically telling him that she hadn't been out or done anything like that in like 2 years. She didn't really elaborate, but she was a little tipsy, and so were the rest of the girls. And she kept saying she wanted him to take her for a ride on his motorcycle. But he's like, hey, I don't have another helmet. You're not really dressed, but we can do it tomorrow. So he gets in touch with her the next day. By then, she's sobered up, and she basically says she's flattered, but that she's married and has babies, and wished him well. And so he didn't do anything to pursue it because at one time he had been cheated on in the past. And so, as he says, he didn't want to be a wedge in somebody else's relationship. What I liked about the email is the guy just had high character, high integrity. Because if he had low integrity and a woman says, well, she's married with babies, because if a woman's willing to cheat, she'll say something like that. But if she's a low character woman, then if he keeps hitting on her, she won't shut him down. So when she says she's married, if he's Chad Thundercock and he's not a good person and doesn't care, like a lot of guys don't, he'll say, how married are you? And you see this a lot, especially guys that study this type of work. They complain about women. Who's supposed to hold women accountable? Well, quite frankly, the men are. The men set the guardrails in society. The men make it safe for the women to move about society in a way to where the women and children are safe. At the end of the day, as a man, with wherever you go, women and children that are with you are automatically under your protection. That's just part of the deal of being a man. So let's go through his email. He says, hi, Corey. I wanted to share a recent experience from down under that might help other men re-entering dating after a long-term relationship. So I assume he's in Australia. I recently came out of a 20-year marriage and have been consciously applying the 3% man principles. Patience, letting women come to me, emotional control, and acting with integrity. Character is destiny. You may have heard me say that many, many times. And you attract how you act. So in this particular case, I don't know if it was the marriage or in the past, he's been in relationships where he got cheated on and he didn't like it. And if you're continually attracting people that lie and cheat, well, whatever you tolerate, you invite more of. And so when you're interacting with women, they tell you they have a boyfriend or they're married or whatever, and you proceed anyways, especially if you think, oh, well, it's like a Disney movie. She's with this guy that's not treating her right, doesn't appreciate her. And you think, oh, I'm going to take her away like they do in the movies, and we're going to live happily ever after, and it's going to be wonderful. In reality, this is like, especially in his case where he's been cheated on, he sends him a woman who, I mean, quite frankly, she'd been drinking. She never mentioned anything about kids or being married or anything like that. So it kind of makes you wonder what she's really like. And because again, the liar and the cheater will tell the guy about their family and their kids. And to the average woman, that absolves her for any responsibility for anything that happens after that. And therefore, if she ends up sleeping with a guy, she'll say, well, it just kind of happened. I told him I was married. But yet, she continued to give him the green light to pursue and advance. So he says, a few nights ago, I was out with my motorcycle group near the ocean. Two women nearby, clearly playful and a bit inebriated, approached our table asking if we could take them for a ride. One of them looked directly at me first, shook my hand confidently, and asked about the ride. I calmly explained that I couldn't take her that night because I didn't have a spare helmet, but added I'd happily take her another time. I handed her my phone with the add contact screen open. She entered her details without hesitation and called herself from my phone. Now, at this point in the story, we know that she later tells him she's married and had kids, but look how she behaves. She's not, oh, I'm married, I can't. No mention of the husband, no mention of the kids. She's got a couple cocktails in her. She's eagerly giving her number out to a guy for a motorcycle ride. Now, if you're the husband and your wife or your girlfriend, if you guys live together and have kids and you didn't involve the state in your marriage, if you find out about your girl doing something like that, no guy's going to be like, oh, yeah, that's totally okay. Totally don't mind. Totally all right. No big deal. I'm sure she's trustworthy. Just goes to show what's out there. Because, again, at any point, she could have said, oh, I'm sorry, I'm married. But instead, her and her girlfriend approach these group of guys and, in essence, want to start interacting with them. So he says, after a brief interruption by other people, I assumed she would drift off with her friends. Instead, she came back, put her hand on my shoulder, made eye contact, and said, I'm serious about the ride. Makes you wonder what kind of ride she was really after. She had a couple cocktails in her. She asked where I was based. I told her and said I'd be in touch. There was no escalation or pressure. So everything's normal. You think, oh, well, maybe met a nice girl. She wants to go, she seems to be interested. No mention of the husband or the kids. Later that night, I sent a light, playful follow-up text referencing the missed ride, again with no pressure. The next day, her reply felt polite but restrained. She then explained that she was married, hadn't been out socially in a long time, had too much to drink, and she felt she crossed a line she wasn't comfortable with. She lowered her inhibitions. Again, she could have at any moment said, hey, I'm married, got kids. She never did that. And it makes you feel bad for the guy that's actually married to her, because I'm sure he wouldn't be happy about the fact that his wife is, in essence, hitting on a guy and multiple times asking him to take her for a ride on his motorcycle. And on top of that, giving out her number. And calling her phone with his number. Or his phone, I should say. I immediately respected her situation, replying calmly that I respected her marriage and family, wished her well, with no hard feelings. I didn't argue, persuade, or rationalize. Again, a low-character guy would have been like, well, how married are you? And she probably would have laughed, and there would have been some joking back and forth, and said, let's go for that ride. And in her mind, well, I told him I was married, if that didn't bother him. It's just a sad state of affairs. Zero resistance from her towards him. So I'm gonna go through the text exchange because he adds that in here. So we'll go through and read that. Let's see, where is it? So here's his first text the next day. Hi, it's Bob from the kebab shop. Gutted I couldn't give you that ride tonight. Don't have a spare helmet, the proper polycarbonate one. Anyway, let's fix that soon, yeah? She says, hi, thank you for the offer for the ride. We had a massive night. Haven't actually been out in about 2 years, so it was an extra massive night for me. So he says, hey, sounds like an absolute cracker of a night. No wonder you needed recovery time. 2 years off the scene deserves a proper celebration. Still keen for that ride? I got the helmet ready. My main thought is tomorrow evening, 5:30, 6:30, pickup for a sunset cruise. And dropping straight into the Indian, basically your backyard. If you're miraculously recovered tonight, we could squeeze in one before the sun disappears. Let me know what works. So he's kind of like, oh, my schedule's wide open for you. So he should clean up his, because if you saw this, you'd see his texts are like this, and hers are much shorter. Just one thing that jumps out at me. He's talking too much. And then she says, just thinking for safety of the ride, closed shoes, boots, and denim jeans, or anything sturdy would be ideal for your legs and feet. I've got a proper jacket and the polycarbonate lid ready. All good? And so here she says, I'm so sorry if I said something untrue last night or led you to believe that I may be single. I'm happily married with babies. Well, why didn't she mention that the previous evening? You're a charming man with loads to offer, but I'm not your girl. Sorry. Take care of yourself and thank you. I feel flattered. And so he says, thank you for your message and being so clear and kind. I completely respect your marriage and family. Please feel free to block my number and delete our chat. It's the smartest thing for everyone. No hard feelings at all. Wishing you and your family nothing but the best. So back to his email. He says, yes, it stung because the connection felt genuine, but the way she handled it and the way I responded left us both with dignity and tact. Having been cheated on in the past, I refuse to be the wedge in someone else's life. Well, good for you. Because let's look at it from a different perspective. What if he saw one too many Disney movies, and the Disney movie, the damsel in distress is with a guy that's a jerk or doesn't appreciate her or whatever, and he thinks, I'm going to save her from that awful life and that terrible man who doesn't appreciate her. And we'll live happily ever after. And in the movies, they start an affair, and they lived happily ever after. In real life, he might end up with a Hialeah divorce. But it makes you wonder, it's like, if he said, well, how married are you? Well, it's just a motorcycle ride. Let's go get together. And she might be like, oh, okay. But the fact that it never came up, the fact that she's giving out her number willingly, never ever mentioned she had kids. The other thing is, like, where's the ring? Did she not have her ring on? Did he not notice that? But I suspect she wasn't wearing her ring. So what does that tell you? She was fishing. He says, this didn't feel like failure. It felt like confirmation that the work works. It's not about controlling outcomes, but about controlling how you show up. I'm sharing this because many men leaving long-term relationships struggle with mixed signals, interpreting attraction, and handling rejection without spiraling. This experience reminded me that doing the right thing still counts, even when the answer is no. Thanks for the work you do. Your material has been a steady compass as I relearn this part of my life. Well, I got to say, good on you for having some integrity. I know that's kind of hard to... That's in short supply in today's world because there's a lot of low-character people out there. But if I was a betting man, if we look at her behavior, despite the fact she had a couple drinks... How many of you watching this are like, yeah, that sounds like a woman that's going to be loyal and faithful? Or that's the woman that's just looking for a guy to have an affair with that's going to keep his mouth shut and be persistent and not care that she's married. It's like, in a way, she tested his strength and his character, and he's like, hey, I'm not getting involved with a married girl. Which is what should happen. Because if that happened 100% of the time, cheating wouldn't be happening like it does. But there's too many thirsty guys that are like, well, she's obviously not happy. Maybe she'll be happier with me. And that's the way they think. And they ignore the fact that if she cheats on him, given the right circumstances, she will definitely cheat on you. That is just a fact of life. It's, like I said, it's kind of disappointing that she gets a couple drinks in her and look how she behaves. Just shows you what's out there, man. And there's some dude is married to her and thinks he's got a loyal and faithful wife, and yet she's giving out her information willingly and flirting and approaching guys willingly because she's looking for the right guy to have an easy affair with, easy hookup with, and that's not going to create any problems for her and her family. Because, again, she approached him. She approached him multiple times, said she was really serious about the ride, and once he found out that she was married, he's like, I'm out. But a lower character man, if he'd have pursued, if I'm a bet man, I would bet that she would have probably, or will, or already has cheated on her husband or is looking to cheat on him. But it just goes to show what's out there. But the more you have guys that hold women like this accountable, especially if she's persistent about getting together with a guy even after she reveals he's married, he needs to lower the boom on her and tell her that she needs to be loyal and faithful to her husband. And if she's not happy, to leave and then go become single and then start dating after she took time to heal. So if you got a question or challenge and you'd like to get my help, go to understandingrelationships.com, click the coaching tab at the top of your screen on any page of my website, and book a coaching session with yours truly. If you haven't already signed up for our exclusive premium members-only content, in the video description of this video, there are links to join on YouTube, or you can join on Spotify, or our website, understandingrelationships.com. Just click the plans tab when you get there. You can do a 7-day free trial to check out all the content you get for your money. And if you choose an annual plan, you can get a 25% discount at the end of the 7-day free trial. So go to understandingrelationships.com, click the plans tab, sign up for a free trial today, and until next time, I will talk to you soon.